why is it so hard to notice what we've inherited from how we were raised until we're already in it?
I just think we aren't invested yet in figuring
Mm,
out how we became who we are and what our values are until we're faced with this massive task of raising another human being. And then I
mhm,
think we're like, wait, wait. If we're lucky and if our kids are lucky, we take that reflective time to say, hold on a second, how did I get here? What was
mhm,
my experience and what experience do I want to give my kids? And if you don't reflect on that, you lose out on these amazing opportunities to do what you said, which is to kind of break that cycle of I didn't like how that was. I didn't want that for me, but I couldn't raise myself. So now I can reparent myself so that I can
mhm.
parent this child in a different kind of way without, throwing out the things that might have been good. And the other thing that's just scientific and I think so cool is that your brain, when it's in its most vulnerable state, is also, it has the most capacity to grow. So
Mm,
bad things can happen more easily, but it also means that really big good things can happen more easily. And the transition to becoming a parent is the third most vulnerable, meaning malleable time for your brain in our life course. So it makes sense that you're thinking, hold on, what do I want to change about myself? How do I make sure that I'm the person I need to be to raise this kid?
mhm,
So that's this time when your brain is like, I'll do that. I'm ready for that. I have the discipline for that. Now, as an athlete, like your brain knew how to be disciplined way
mhm,
earlier.
mhm,
And so, in a way, you had a lot of training for being uncomfortable, for pushing through failure, for doing the things that are required to bolster resilience. Because you couldn't, it's just like you wouldn't be able to do those things. You wouldn't be
mhm.
able to put yourself out there. You wouldn't be able to train when you don't feel like it. There's so much that you have to learn as an athlete that you don't have to learn otherwise. But I think for most people, that transition to becoming a parent is like, okay, I couldn't have that discipline before, but now my motivation is there and my brain is ripe for it.
Mhm. It's such a good point because I think that's where, like, me and my wife probably clash the most just because I have this very, like, disciplined approach to things, and then when we first got a kid, I'm like, "We're doing this, and this because the routine gotta be this way, we gotta wake up at this time," and that first baby came, I was like, "Yo, like, none of this is going to stick." None of it's gonna stick, and I know that, that is a trait of mine because I've been an athlete since, 9 years old, and I played professionally, but for people who, like, don't understand that piece and it's something they have to essentially ingrain in themselves to get disciplined. Um, I kind of feel like they run on autopilot from what they know and they're trying to
Exactly.
fix and they're trying to figure out
Because you're
what
just
to do.
surviving.
Yeah, exactly. So what does it look like when someone's parenting on autopilot and not really realizing it? Like, how can they become like, oh, I think I'm kind of just going with the flow and it's not working.
Well, I that autopilot is really easy to default to. So if
Mm,
you aren't asking yourself the question, you know, what was my experience being parented, being loved?
mm,
What was my experience loving just in those early years? And how did that present, whether it was emotional or how did that present in boundaries and limits? That sort of some of the things you're talking about only happen in the context of love. Otherwise, they're scary.
mm,
So, like, knowing what your schedule is, knowing that your child has to sleep, knowing all of those things, you can't really be aware of that if the way you experienced it was because you were afraid to get in trouble or you were afraid to break a rule. But if it was like in the context of love and support, it's a totally different thing. It's like, I've got I I've got you. Like these are the things that you're going to need in order to grow in a healthy way. And I love you and that's why those rules exist. And I don't think we any of us can do that without stopping and saying what was my experience? What do I believe? And what do I go to automatically if I don't think about it? And if what you go to automatically isn't your dream scenario, like when the milk is spilled, is your automatic reaction overwhelm and rage? Then that means like, I definitely didn't want to do that. What's going on here?
Oh, that's such a good point.
And it's just like those little moments every time you catch yourself doing something where you're like, why did I just do it that way? You're
Mhm.
reflecting and you're becoming a better parent. I think the risk is that you do something that you experienced when you were a kid. You don't pause to say, "Oh, I don't like how I did that at all. That's not what
Mhm.
I I don't want to keep doing that." If you don't ask yourself that and you don't catch those moments, or maybe even more challenging would be if you're like, yeah, now I understand more why
Mhm.
that I was yelled at all the time
Mhm.
or whatever it is. I
Mhm.
think then you risk staying on autopilot because it's comfortable, because it's easier, and because it makes sense to you. It's your lived experience. Even if you disagree with it intellectually, it's in your body. Like your nervous system recognizes it. These are patterns that were set early. And the truth is that home is our natural place that we try to get back
Mhm.
to, even if that place wasn't ideal. And so if you don't take the time to ask yourself, why is home to me this uncomfortable thing or unsafe thing? You're going to just repeat it because you're going to want to get back home with your kid.
Mhm.
And for some people, home is beautiful. And I hope for our kids, home is safe and beautiful and they are loved. But not everybody experienced home in this beautiful way.